Welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving into the messy, complicated, and, let's be honest, often incredibly stressful reality of hiring outside your home country. If your business is growing right now, you have probably felt this friction firsthand. So we're going to evaluate a platform that claims to have the ultimate solution to all of this, Deel. Is it really the magic bullet to fix your global hiring woes, or is it just another heavy, expensive piece of software? Well, let's dive in and find out.
Picture this. Imagine the exact moment your business breaks. You've been operating so smoothly, everything's great, and then you make your very first international hire. And suddenly, it hits you. You realize your local setup, your trusty, familiar payroll system, your standard employment contracts is entirely inadequate. Almost overnight, you are stepping into this wild world of unfamiliar local payroll rules and some pretty serious compliance risks. Honestly, this is the exact moment a platform like Deel starts to look really, really appealing. So let's move into Section 1, the global hiring headache. We really need to talk about the pain of international expansion.
Historically speaking, hiring globally meant dealing with an absolute nightmare of manual, cross-functional stitching. You literally couldn't just click hire. You had to get on the phone with international lawyers. You had to figure out if you needed to spend months establishing local business entities. Your HR, finance, and legal teams were suddenly forced to juggle strange, overlapping payroll calendars and constantly sweat over getting worker classification right just to avoid massive fines down the road. And after all that administrative agony, they were still chasing down international payments through traditional banks just to get one single person paid on time. It was exhausting.
Which brings us to Section 2, productizing international employment. This is all about turning those incredibly messy processes into clean SaaS workflows. The crucial takeaway here is that Deel has evolved far beyond just being a simple payroll tool. Our source material points this out brilliantly. Deel is becoming the operating layer for global employment. They've essentially taken all that chaotic manual junk we just talked about and productized the entire international hiring experience. They've made it feel so much more like a modern, streamlined software-as-a-service workflow.
In practice, that means the whole shebang. Contracts, invoices, payroll, tax documents, benefits, onboarding, and local compliance, it all sits right there, perfectly organized in one single place. And this kind of consolidation, it builds immense trust across the board. The interface actually gives HR teams, finance departments, and the contractors themselves exactly what they need. Because think about it, contractors just care about getting paid quickly. Employers care about staying compliant. Finance cares about audits and keeping costs in check. Deel manages to give all three groups total clarity without that clunky, heavy feel you usually get with legacy enterprise software. Reviewers across the board constantly highlight this. It's just super easy to use with a really strong onboarding experience.
Okay, on to Section 3, the all-in-one ambition. Let's look at how they are collapsing the vendor patchwork. To truly wrap your head around their scale and ambition right now, consider this. Deel publicly positions itself around managing teams in over 150 countries, and they are already serving over 40,000 customers worldwide. 40,000! That is a massive footprint for a company that started out solving a relatively narrow problem. And it gets bigger. Across those 40,000 customers, Deel has processed a staggering $20 billion in global payroll. Let that sink in, $20 billion. This isn't just some niche, lightweight tool for a handful of digital nomads anymore. This is a heavy-duty financial engine that's moving massive amounts of capital across borders and doing it seamlessly. Fueled by this aggressive expansion, they actually recently hit $500 million in annual recurring revenue. $500 million! A major piece of that growth puzzle was their highly strategic 2024 acquisition of Payspace, which really played into a broader industry consolidation we're seeing. They are aggressively pushing way past basic contractor management. They achieved this massive financial growth by essentially completely collapsing the tech stack. We're talking contractor payments, employer of record services, full HR information systems, immigration, device management, and benefits. See, a lot of competitors out there try to solve just one tiny slice of this problem. But Deel? They are trying to collapse the entire thing into one unified global workforce platform. This lets fast-growing businesses run distributed teams without having to tape together a messy patchwork of different vendors, or worse, build a global back office entirely from scratch. Moving to Section 4, the price of simplicity. We have to ask, what does premium actually cost? Because as you'd expect, accessing the higher value parts of Deel absolutely requires a significant financial commitment. Sure, contractor management starts at a very reasonable $49 a month, and global payroll sits at $29. But as you scale up your needs, those costs jump. U.S. Professional Employer Organization services hit $125, contractor of record bumps up to $325, and a full employer of record, where Deel is legally employing the person on your behalf, that's going to run you $599 per person every single month. Oh, and if you want to add Deel IT for device management, that's another $45. So how do we make sense of those numbers? Well, it absolutely feels expensive if you're just comparing it to a standard basic payroll software subscription. But you really have to shift your perspective here. It starts making perfect sense when you factor in the massive costs it's completely replacing. Think about the crazy legal fees, the entity setup costs, paying multiple payroll vendors in a dozen different countries, the endless compliance research, and the sheer number of manual admin hours. But more importantly, it feels entirely reasonable when you compare it to the astronomical financial cost and legal jeopardy of getting global employment wrong.
But it's not all perfect, which brings us to Section 5, where Deel falls short. Let's explore when all-in-one becomes just a bit too much.
There's a very clear dividing line in the market for this tool. On one side, Deel is incredibly appealing for fast-growing international startups that need to hire right now before they even have local entities set up. It's also great for mid-market teams desperate to consolidate their messy HR operations. But on the flip side, it can genuinely frustrate people. If you have a simple, small domestic team with only a couple of local payroll needs, or if you require deeply customized, bespoke HR workflows, Deel can feel incredibly heavy. Make no mistake, this is not tiny business simple.
The absolute biggest risk with Deel is that all-in can very quickly become a whole lot. As companies scale, they naturally crave granular control over their workflows, their reporting, and their highly specific country-by-country processes. If your company already has mature HR operations in place, internal legal coverage, and strong local providers you trust, Deel might actually feel like a rigid layer you're being forced to adapt to, rather than a flexible blank canvas you can shape yourself. Global employment is inherently complex by nature, and no platform, not even Deel, can make that complexity vanish entirely.
All right, Section 6, the final verdict. Is it actually right for you?
Ultimately, Deel's a market-leading choice for a reason. It truly understands the deep pain of operators. Their core advantage isn't just about moving money from point A to point B. It's about peace of mind. Companies don't just need to pay people abroad, they need to feel completely safe doing it. Deel provides the ultimate safety and compliance infrastructure, giving leaders the confidence to hire across borders without having to instantly build an expensive legal and compliance team in every single country they touch. But I want you to remember this brilliant analogy from our source review. The real trade-off with Deel is that it's best when the complexity is actually real. For a simple, small domestic team, buying Deel is literally like paying for a global command center when a bicycle would have easily done the job. It is a wildly incredible piece of infrastructure for sure, but you shouldn't buy heavy infrastructure unless you actually need to drive heavy traffic over it. So as you look ahead and plan your company's growth, and especially before you sign that premium software contract, I want to leave you with this one question to chew on. Is your geographical complexity real enough right now to require a global command center? Or are you over-engineering your operations when, really, you just need a bicycle? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep analyzing your tools, stay focused, and I'll catch you on the next one.